To kick off our study in evolution, we're going to talk about the principles of natural selection. So we see three different modes of the selection process. Directional selection is an increase in the expression of some extreme version of a trait in a population. A good example of this is color. So here I have a population size on my dotted line. This is a population of moths. Most of the population in this particular moth are lightly colored. But then let's just say something happens, a mutation occurs that makes the moths dark in color. So now the moths have a new dark color. Then it might be more advantageous for the moths to be dark. If the moths line up against a tree and tree bark is dark in color, they're going to be able to hide better. They're better camouflaged, and birds are less likely to pick them off if they can blend in with the tree better. So we see a rise here in an extreme change in the what's available, the allele availability within the population, just due to a mutation, for example. Another mode of natural selection is disruptive selection. That's a process where you would split a population into two different groups. And so by removing individuals with average traits, we favor two different types of extremes of that trait. So for example, let's take a population of snakes. Let's say that there are snakes that live on rocks and they're kind of gray in color. And then there are snakes that live in the grass, and of course they are green in color. And then there are snakes that are kind of this intermediate coloring. They have both a gray coloring and a green coloring. This is all the same population of snakes. It's just the color is being expressed in three different fashions. Well, if there is in the environment, there is only this rocky area, and then from the rocky area we go to a very grassy area, then the benefit of being green and being in one spot is better camouflage, right? And so if creatures are hunting for these snakes, they're going to likely pick off the one that they can see better. If they have a half green, half gray snake going through the grass, they're still going to be able to see it. The gray is offset by the grass. And vice versa. If they see a green, part gray snake going through the rocks, they're going to likely, be more to be eaten. So we see a disruptive selective process just due to an environmental change or a situation that really divides this one species of snake into two different varieties. And because they become so isolated, we lose that center original color of the snakes. And then all we see are green snakes and then the gray snakes. And then finally, a stabilizing selection is a mode of natural selection. So a stabilizing selection is quite the opposite of the disruptive one, in that it basically will eliminate the extremes of a certain trait, like within a population. So there's an average expression of a gene that leads to a higher fitness, that leads to longer longevity and higher reproductive ability. So human babies are a great example of stabilizing selection. You can be a baby that was 12 pounds and you can be a baby that was 2 pounds. Those are extremes. However, the babies that have a median weight of 7.5 pounds, those babies are more likely to live longer without complications and survive. It's not like the bigger baby is always better. There can be issues that come with a very large baby. And of course, there can be issues that come with a very tiny baby or premature baby. Therefore, there's very little variety tolerated in human baby weight when it comes to survival of human babies that will live to some longevity to be able to become reproductive. So we'll see this shift in the trait causing it to become more pointier, or the average. All babies born are closer towards the average. So let's just practice this. Let's just say I'm going to give you a series and you tell me if the following examples are either a directional, a disruptive, or a stabilizing selection. All right. Two different colorations of a species of beetle are both distasteful to birds. Is that a disruptive, a stabilizing, or directional selection process? How about a brightly colored fish? They mate more frequently than the natural or neutral colored fish of that same species. What about the average baby chick weight is about 45 grams when it's born? It's probably a little easy example. All right, there is fossil evidence that reveals that over time, the size of horses has actually been increasing. That's usually like against the natural selective process. Over time, natural selection has created species that are similar to their ancestors but only smaller. It's like everything is continuing to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But in the case of horses, we have evidence that they're actually increasing in size. A long time ago, their ancestors were smaller horses, and now we see 14 hand horses.